Today we are taking you to London, to Islington to be more precise, where the Eric and Salome Estorick Foundation is housed in a large Georgian mansion since 1989. The director, Dr. Roberta Cremoncini, has been involved with the foundation since the beginning. She will speak with us about the rather unusual life of the Estoricks and the importance of their collection of Italian futurist art. How did the purchase of the foundation centre in Islington come about? Is the area or the house significant to Estorick's life in London?
In a word, no. But as the son, Michael Estorick, who was the chairman of the foundation, and it basically started after his father died, lived around here, and he saw this beautiful house, sort of, which was fairly abandoned, and he decided it was the right place to have a. Now, also after 20 years, is not only the collection, but it also is the building very much. The garden, the library, the bookshop. So the collection is the whole thing.
Why did Estorick set up the foundation? Because a lot of museums want to buy his collection. And they make it foundation. It's a turning point.
Obviously, for a collector, and Eric Estorick wasn't completely just a collector, was also a dealer. He wanted that his choice, which was very personal, and it is extraordinarily peculiar to him and his wife, was stay together. These most of our important works were on loan at Tate for a very long time. And there probably was an understanding that the collection would stay there. In fact, Tate doesn't have many futurist works because they had all the masterpieces from the Estorick collection. But I think what sort of played in their mind was the fact they wanted the collection to stay together and not to be diluted in a bigger museum.
And we were wondering as well, you've been already a long time in London. Did you have a chance to meet Mr. Estorick, perhaps?
No, I was in London, I haven't met him at all. And I met, obviously, throughout the years, a lot of people, they met him. I think he was a very interesting character. He was very hard in his choices. He knew exactly what he wanted. He was a sociologist. Also, he was writing biography, and he came to Europe various times. How he met his wife on the Queen Elizabeth going back to New York. But it's also when they decided to get married very quickly. In 10 days after they arrived in New York, they got engaged, and so it was really, and so then they went on a honeymoon, and she was pregnant, and there was a decision to come back to the UK instead of going back to America. So he had to reinvent himself in a sense. So he actually used his various contacts that he did through the New York University, also through Stieglitz and gallery. The photography galleries so he uses all this contact to try to create a new job in a sense. So this association with various people, he was trying to buy works of art. To start with, they probably were more traditionally French or drawings, and also some Modigliani drawings, but also then it was sort of trying to make discover a new way of sort of maintaining the family as well as. Him and his wife, they were very much a couple. So the collection is Eric Estorick, but Salome was very much the part of all the choices as well. They were very close couples, so they did lots of things. They worked at the gallery together, and it was both of them, even if his name was on the checkbook. But I think it's quite interesting. Also, she was the one more artistically trained because she had a degree in textile design, and so she had kind of that background as well. So they were both of them.
What kind of a collector was Mr. Estorick?
He was very interested in the works of art. He wasn't not interested in the artist, which is quite unusual because usually all the collectors that we read, most of it the meeting the artist was important. For Estorick, wasn't. He actually didn't want to know nearly. In fact, our archives, we don't hardly have any letters or just maybe some Christmas cards, but not really a correspondence. He was not interested in the artists. Very few artists he became friends with, Zoran Music and Campigli. Also, Estorick didn't speak Italian, so was it's very more distant approach. So he went to Italy, he bought, but was always through dealers or even through the artists, but he looked at the works, he didn't chat to the artist.
We discovered a series of drawings, very rare, of course, of Morandi. How did you find them?
He went to see Morandi.
Yeah.
Morandi didn't speak English. He had two sisters. He used to live with his two sisters who look after him, and they did a translation of what he and he bought some of them through him, but also Morandi in the 50s was already established, so it actually varies from the galleries. But throughout the years, he did have lots of Morandis. At the moment, we have 18 etchings and 10 drawings, which they are very beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes.
they're very beautiful. We give another light to Morandi.
Interesting, the drawings become sparser and sparser when the etchings become more and more complicated and worked. It actually was quite an interesting way. So his early drawings are much more drawn with lots of lines, and it become the essential line become less and less when also parallel to the etchings they actually become more and more accomplished and more full of lines. So it must have been quite fascinating in his mind.
When you see sometimes contemporary, you see the more sociological part of the contemporary. In the art, you see the relationship with the society. Mr. Estorick was a sociologist, and he chose the futurism. It was also a movement with the relationship with the society. But you see the link between the sociologist, Estorick, and the art as a collector.
Yes, I think he was interested in what also the works were telling him. So he didn't have, maybe not being an art historian or being an artist, so he didn't have that kind of feeling that has to be understood. It was the art, and it was more, I think in a sense more than what was going on. For example, when he started collecting the futurist, he saw the works. The artist Mario Sironi is the first artist he collected. He was connected, worked for the fascist regime, and so I think Estorick was able to, maybe because he was so aware of, he was able to pass that. He actually bought the works because he liked them, despite everything else, and also that was part of his detachment with Italian. If I didn't speak Italian, but also some of the time apparently he said, well, if he knew exactly what was how difficult the period in Italy was, maybe he wouldn't have got involved in a sense. But I think it was from coming from America and being able to look at the works of art was sort of excited him, and he talks about his first futurist pictures he's seen. The fact it was reminding him of his life in New York when he was a young boy in New York at the beginning, and he was said like it was living in New York in the 1910s was like living futurism in action, and so that was the spirit he sort of tried to get from the pictures.
And how has the foundation developed over the years since 1981? And under your leadership, what is your scope? What do you want to achieve?
I think it's generally the knowledge of about Italian 20th century art in London, in general in the UK, was non-existent then. I remember when we first opened, we were talking about futurists, and the people would say, journalists would say, who? And then now there is a general understanding. Still, Italian art is not as well known as American or French artists. For the 20th century, there were only few artists that have become very household names. To start with, when we opened, probably there were three: it was Morandi, Modigliani and De Chirico. And they're still the three most important ones, but nobody ever heard of Severini, for example. And now there are more artists coming up, but still only a handful. And because the taste has changed in the last few years, most of the time we talk about abstract artists, Fontana and Manzoni and Burri, and our collection is all about figurative art. So I think it's very interesting to bring different aspects as well. I think so is what we're trying to do as well. Obviously, we are not. We have an historical collection, despite for Estorick it was the contemporaries. I think for some of the contemporary artists, they still, especially Italians, they still have to deal with their past, and the heritage of Italian culture, Italian art is really major. So it's very interesting to see some of the artists sort of react to our permanent collection. So we do some interventions and sort of dialogue between our permanent collection and the contemporary artists. We don't dedicate main exhibitions to contemporary artists. But it is very interesting how Futurism now influences lots of the artists and how they actually shape the artists today.
A good example of one of these highlights is the recent exhibition dedicated to Umberto Boccioni's reconstructed sculptures, which were destroyed in 1927. Using photographs and with the help of recent 3D technology, the contemporary artists Matt Smith and Anders Roden reconstructed some of Boccioni's lost masterpieces. This might have been something that would have interested Boccioni, who was himself a great inventor and curious about working with different materials. The Estorick Collection is the only foundation or organization in England that really focuses solely on modern Italian art. And how important is the Estorick Foundation to the Italian artistic and cultural life in London?
I think very special, as in there isn't any other places, and also the works we have, some of them they're very important, so they're important also for Italy as well. So I think I as a student of Futurism, I knew all these works, but I didn't really focus that they were in a private collection, is that kind of thing. Also, Estorick was very kindly loaned the works a lot, so they've been throughout the 80s and 70s, 80s, they've been around the world on loans, on exhibitions, so they were very well known. So it is the Estorick Foundation is quite important, and also we have been defined like an embassy of Italy in abroad. Obviously, our remit is very specific. We only do 20th century, but I think it is interesting because Italian art is very well known by mainly the old masters, and is actually probably the more recent years they needed more support than Michelangelo or Leonardo.